that is okay with, I hope that this is okay with everyone. I have this class today prepared on the topic of arrays. At a conceptual level, it's a little bit tricky. It's not something super intuitive. So we'll try to do examples to get a sense of why is it a useful thing. Why do we actually include it in Interaction Lab? So if your connection drops, you're being called to do COVID test or whatever, don't worry too much. The first announcement I will do before we even start is that we have today the beginning of the end. Right? Today we are starting to talk about the final projects, and that means a lot of things. One of them is that when we work with the midterm, the prompt was do something funny, interesting, useful. You know, it was like a very vague prompt. But today that we have the first step on the final project, we start with this. Begin the process by researching projects which complement the conceptual framework you have been building during the semester. So you will compose a blog post that prepares you for the final project. If you click on that thingy that is there, it has an in-detail explanation of what you are expected to do. It has even in gray color. I put it in gray so you know that it's not that important, but it has in gray color some tips, some things that I believe are important. So we ask you to read one text. Let me check if the link is valid. It should. It talks a lot about interaction from another perspective, right? It's not just the UI of ATM or something like that, but it actually thinks about art and what does it mean to engage with a piece of art. And then it asks you to research 2 interactive projects. You have places that you can go and dig some sources of projects, but I'm okay if you Google, you know, like you start thinking about, it could be that you want to address the isolation during COVID or mental health, and then you start looking at art projects that are interactive. You start looking in, you know, start digging in. I am into robots, education, and assistive technology. You know, these are the keywords that I always like looking at. I don't know if you can hear the megaphone, but they are announcing that I am up in the testing. Okay, not fun. Okay, so let's make a plan. This announcement I just make, read it by yourself. Let's go very quickly. I will go till I will continue till they come and knock my door, I think. But what I was planning was to chat a little bit more about the research project. Read the rest in our notes, right? Sorry, not here. Sorry. Read the rest in our notes, right? If you click on projects in our Interaction Lab page, you will see that here the final project is more eloquently explained. Please ask me if you have any questions. Of course, we are not planning to return to the academic building. Nevertheless, that shouldn't influence too much. You can still work in pairs. So I have more stuff to say, but I will go fast. I will show them a little thing that another instructor shared with me. He's not teaching right now, Oliver Steele. Prepare all these animations that are the ones that you use during the recitation. And he used processing to code them. So I thought that it was a nice thing of like thinking, oh, these things that we saw visually, we picked up from the internet some visual cues that we thought interesting. But he actually went through the effort of actually preparing the code of all these. So I thought that it was like something interesting. Also, like the mindset of he's an instructor, but like he actually went through the effort of preparing all these examples. So I will just like say a blurb of what we should take into consideration. The thing that we are going to be building today, we're going to be using is yet another technique that simplifies things in the future, but right now it's a little bit complicated. Even the name is difficult. It's called array. So an array could be that you put different. Okay, they're calling me right now. Okay, so putting the things, they're putting the things in order, right? So that's an array. If you think about it, why would we need it, right? So if I have say a processing sketch, and I want to have let me see, I will maybe start a new one, and I want to start having something like this, and now you're encouraged to also practice with me a little bit, right? Like you have something like this, and I'm thinking about I will make the canvas a little bigger than the default, and I'm going to put maybe the width and the height, right? And here maybe you already know this, right? Very well, but I would put some number, right? I can start thinking, okay, that's the great color. I could, instead of doing this, I could say that I want to put a rectangle, and I want to put it from the 0, 0 to the width to the width to the height, and I want the fill of this rectangle. Kind of like I already programmed this some time ago. I will do it a little bit different today, but the fill will be as I was putting a second ago. So now, kind of the same. It has a border there, so I would put a maybe on the slab. Or put a no stroke. Okay. So yeah, so sort of the same, right? So now, if you think about it, the X and the Y are here in 0, 0 is the top corner. So if I move this one, this little thingy, and I call it I, right? And I say, even at the beginning of everything, no, I will call it Y. You know, it's going to be easier for us. So we put it in 0. So I'm not changing anything now, but this is draw, ta, 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 right? Ta, 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 ta means also the ability to say why is incremented in 10. Yeah, maybe. I will not see too much now because the field is all the time the same. But if I somehow think about this number depends one on the other, I could say not whatever 2 times I, right? Something like this. Feel no y this I and y in Spanish are pronounced the same. So I have something there, right? It's kind of like I'm increasing and it's changing. Maybe this is not ideal for me. Maybe I want to think a little bit about the range of these things. Maybe I want to think. Also, I want to draw. Let me think. I will put these 2 times y. No, it should be the other way, right? Y divided 2. And then here I want to put a fill of also the half of this, and I will put an ellipse. You can also use the order circle, right? It's the same. And I will put it in the half of the screen. Something. So I'm kind of like eyeballing things, but like for us to have something. So it is there, right? Not exactly what I wanted. Maybe this for me to be a little nicer, I could do something like that. But I'm having this gradient behind, 4, 3, well, some number, right? And I have the ball on top. Nevertheless, the ball is there, but it gets written and it gets written again, and I see how it moves. That is happening because it's refreshing everything. I could, instead of doing this, or even worse, right? I could, instead of doing this, I could try to use that every time it draws the draw, it goes and paints the whole canvas. So in order to do that, I will need to put this thingy, whatever it is, but this thingy, to iterate and in an orderly manner, right? I will want to have here something like this. So I'm doing a review of the for loop in a slightly different way. I'm going to ask while this is like this, and I'm going to ask while this is please ask me if you have any questions. I am supposed to be doing exactly the same again, just that using the for loop technique. And now we stop seeing that thing that was happening, and the little ellipse gets drawn on top. So this will have many advantages. One of them is that I am able to maybe move the ball and it will not interfere. Maybe here I should make it black color so that we see it more clearly. Yeah. So do you have any questions about what I just did? That is just writing the for loop again. I have. Oh yes, thank you, Jinpeng, for answering, helping a little bit. I missed the chat. Okay, so this thing I just showed was a review of the for loop. Now it will be interesting for us to think, what could it be? What could it mean for us to have stored a sequence that is not exactly doing the same as increase the color in an orderly manner? So what I'm thinking about is one way that I can think about this is, instead of putting this here, I could have the run. Maybe I use HSV colors. I think they're a little prettier. Color mode, and I will do HSV. Prettier in the sense it's easier for me to match them. Prettier or not prettier, the colors are the same, but I think I'm more used to do this. So I will put the fill of I had this before, and I will put, but not fully, I will put 50, something like this. And this one, oops. Let's see if that looks acceptably pretty. Yeah, so sorry, I chose the best. But 50, maybe a little bit more, right? More brightness. Yeah, sort of, right. So I have now on the screen a for loop is showing a rainbow. It's very, it's in order, right? And I could think, okay, I don't want rainbow anymore. I want to have here something that actually it's randomized, and I say like, okay, so I would expect, or what I would like to have is in order the screen behind that is showing me a specific pattern of colors. But this is actually tricky because as I am using random here, I will want to draw it every time, but I want to draw them in the proper order, right? In the proper sense. So I will reduce this problem to a more trivial one. So I'm putting 4 colors here. So of course you can say, hey, Rudy, why are you doing this? You can memorize these 4 colors. The same thing I did before, right? Or you can memorize these 4 colors. You could be thinking about it in these terms of like the 0, 0. Hola, ¿vamos a hacer el test? Okay, ask mommy to pick me up when we go to the test. And here we could choose our colors, right? So we have some colors that are different, right? We put whatever things. But this is tedious, right? This is definitely not very intuitive. This is going to take me a long time to remember. It's going to be thinking, okay, where does this one start? Oh, this one, let me think, 200. So this is going to be 200. This is going to be 400. And this is going to be 600. And I do get away with it, right? Because I chose 4. But let's imagine that I want to go back to my initial strip, like, you know, the little strips. I need to write down a lot of coordinates. So because of these kind of situations that I have a need to store many parameters, and how do I do that? A for loop definitely helps, but a for loop that keeps things in order, that is not only like, let's say 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Like I put here randomly, I put 20, 80, 160, but I could have put here another order, right? Whatever it is. But that order, to remember it, where do I put it? I can go crazy and I can call it, I will call it like h1 equals 20 or int h1 and h2 equals 80 or 150, right? I can definitely do something like that, and then I use it here, h1 and h2. I can try to do something like that. Now, cumbersome again, right? I can do that, yeah, sure. But this is a technique that I survive with 4 numbers. And the second you want to have 25 numbers, you need to spend 1 hour more. And if you want to have 10,000, you just cannot do it, right? Like, how do you store manually 10,000 things and then you pick them up? It's just like, no. So because of this situation, and I will put it on a side, right? Leave it there running even. We have a way to declare numbers and things, variables, in an array. So it's a little bit like saying we are able to store numbers in an order way. We are able to store letters. We are able to store colors. Now, the thing I have there in the screen is the example that is on our slides. I will just run it. And here it shows 88 as the result, right? So I will start thinking about this. There is a thingy called array that here I'm naming. It has a very strange syntax, so bear with me. But this thing called numbers doesn't store 1 number, stores many. It stores how many? 5 numbers, right? Now it comes something that's very strange. I admit it's just strange. It's not like it's you. So here we have these 5 positions, right? I will not draw the 5 arrows, but you get it, right? So the 5 little holes, and then in the first hole, and this is what is so strange, I will put the number, whatever, 88. I'll need a second. Give me a second. So I made them deal with my family. They will go and queue first, and I will meet them in 10 minutes in the thing. I hope by then we like wrap up the explanation that we're doing. You have a in-class access. So sorry for the interruption, but these kind of things happen. Like some people have been texting me on the chat as well. You have to go to test. You go to test, right? So sorry for the interruption, but in any case, this explanation, it is a little complicated. I'm not expecting everybody to say, "Oh, look, I totally get it." If I do something silly like I put here numbers 1. Then when I try to look at the numbers 1, that the syntax is like this. I put it between this straight brackets. The number is 0. Why? Because I declare a new container that has 5 positions. In the first position that I use the number 0, whatever. The first position, I put the number 88. All the others are going to be, and they're going to be initialized. I can go and read them, but I don't have any number than 0. So when I create an array, the positions are empty. I can go and fill them in. Empty means 0. Now, I mentioned one very strange thing, that is the number 0 is not actually giving you, it's actually giving you the first position. So that's a very strange fact. Another strange fact going on is that if I put here number 55, right, something, it explodes. It's like I define numbers of having 5 positions. I run this code. I have the drawers. I put on the first position the number 88, all good. But when it goes to the line number 8, where I'm trying to print the content of numbers, but I'm asking 55, this is like, I'm trying to go there, but I can't, right? So process is so silly in that sense. The other programming languages, the ones that had Python or JavaScript, might think this is like very stupid way of doing it, but processing is like that. I'm sorry. You need to declare the array. It has to have a definite number of drawers, of containers, and then you can address them. So, of course, 55 doesn't work. And then the number that I find particularly non-intuitive, and I always get confused, is the number 5. So if you ask me in the past, before I become an instructor, what result will I have here? I would say that because I have numbers and I'm putting here a number 5 in this syntax, that means like I have again da da da, and they're like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then I put things like this, sure, but I would have like immediately say, yes, sure, this one is a 5th one. But this is bad. This doesn't work. This explodes, right? This is error. This is buying problems. So why it doesn't work? Because actually, that number 5 is trying to go to a place that doesn't exist. I want to draw, but so here, this number 5 goes to. And my daughter is very happy because she can hear me from downstairs. Okay, so it's going to a place that doesn't exist, and that when I run this code, processing explodes. Process is like, what do I do with this? I don't know. Okay, so there are these 2 lessons learned, or 2 places that watch out for this. It's going to happen. The first place is the way that a syntax works. Copy paste. At this stage, copy paste. copy paste from the code examples, copy paste from another of the prompts that we have. But in order to declare a type of variable, you put here what type of variable, and then you put straight brackets. And that means that you have an array. Now, in order to make that array initialize, you need this kind of syntax. It's very strange. It has like the new element there, and then you need to repeat what is that element. This was one way of doing it. I will type another kind of way to do it. It's very similar, but it uses yet another symbol. So I could say int of arrays has the number 88 and the number 0000. And this code and the former code are exactly the same. Oops. Oh, sorry, of course not. The number 5 determines Rudy. Why? 0. So this code and the former code are exactly the same. The big difference is that here is split in two sentences. One says, this is an array. It's the type of array that will contain numbers, integers, and it has 5 elements. And in the second line, I was saying, in the first element, put in number 88. That was one way of doing it. Another way of doing it is you start with the same. This is an array, right? This is what I'm talking about, right? This is an array. You say it like this, right? This is an array. Now, I will assign numbers, and that's why I use the curly brackets. Sorry, it's curly brackets instead of straight brackets. It's the way it is. Huh? Like just copy. The syntax is a little old. We need to learn to use it. So I put there the element values with comma as a separator. So this becomes very, very powerful. This concept I just explained like that. It grows into other ways of using it. It becomes more complex with objects. I will not touch those, but we definitely will need arrays to be able to communicate between processing Arduino. That's one of the reasons that we're using it today. So I was looking at what could be one example that I think like interesting. But let's imagine that we have a game. The game is making questions and answers. And let's imagine that we have one riddle, right? Or whatever, I don't know. A girl fell off a 20-foot ladder. She wasn't hurt. How? She fell off the bottom. So there was a question and an answer. You can code it. Definitely you can code it, right? So how would you do that with processing and our very deep knowledge of things? This is no, sorry, I will not do it this way. Sorry, I will start a new one. I will say there's a string. I call it riddle, riddle 1. I would say, and I would put this thing. Oops, I not on purpose, but I added one. And end of story, right? Then I can use this string, and then I whatever print riddle 1. I think that nobody has a problem with that. It's what I'm doing is like very, very, very basic. It's not showing too much. You could go through the effort of doing text of this at the position. No, 0, no, it's silly. 0 of the x and then with the divided 2, right? Maybe. And of course, it's not perfect, right? Because it's like 2, but whatever. Let me think a little bit. So I have this thing here, void setup, right? So I have this thing here. I want to make it long. I will make it very long, and I will make it not so tall. And for some reason, okay, for some reason I'm making a mistake and I cannot see it right now. Because I put width here. Hi. So silly. So so I have here the result. Of course, everything can be improved, right? Even the font or whatever, right? But the key factor will be that if I want to go here and say, I also like this riddle, what is the end of rainbow? Then what do I do? I normally I would go and say string riddle, right? Like that's not our old way of saying. But what if our list is long, 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 long? Definitely we need a tool to be able to store all these values, and then here I will call something like riddles of 0, right? So I will say that we have riddles, and it's an array. I can define one array of only one element, or I can define one of, sorry, but I lost the other. I mean, I just see some that are short, so it's not so much effort for me to copy. Right? So I have riddles. It has 2 elements. I start and I end with curly brackets. And now I go and I print the first one, riddles, here. Or I print the second one. And now you already know how those text-based adventures work, right? You put things, and then definitely it goes one over the other, and it has one array with questions and one array with the correct answers. So I will invite you to jump a little bit. The jumping I'm asking is in order for you to actually go over an exercise that you can do by yourself. There are many other things going on. I will review them when I come back from my dear testing. And the place I want to leave you is here. There's a face array. We have been seeing these before. I mean, that's not a face array. I invite you to do a face array. Let me see. Let me see. Here. So I have here. Oh, yes. So no, not this one either. I don't know. I lost it somewhere along my copy pasting of arrays and things. I lost the faces. Acá, here. Acá, here. Che bien. Che bien. So I have our very well-known draw face function. We had it before when we were studying functions. Now I call it, and I call it like this, right? So if I play this, and this is super ugly, it's just drawing one. But how would you adapt what I just explained to draw more than one face? Can you draw 3? Can you draw? And now it's like, whoa, 10,000? Right? 10,000 would make probably the computer collapse. So can you have 300 moving around, right? So you can first plot them, but actually if you are smart with them, they can even be moving and bouncing. Right? So do you have questions? I will, I have the idea of leaving you with this prompt. I'm going to do my COVID test. That's the way I'm thinking, and I will come back. Questions? Okay. So try to work with that. I know that it's difficult. What I'm setting you to do is not extremely simple. Nevertheless, I think that it will definitely benefit you to practice. This is on the slide number 21. Okay, so 21, there's a draw face function. I think I log in with my phone. So if it's somebody wants to chat, I can also chat meanwhile. And I will leave here some music on. Is it a good idea? Music? Yeah, okay, I'll take that as a yes. The potato said yes. Thank you, Iwe. So I was listening to Gorillaz, and I don't have much time to change it now. We'll listen to Gorillaz. I'll also, I think I will make a breakout room with anybody can go in. but you don't have to go. Right? They're there. If you want to chat with somebody privately, midterm projects, it's just like you to a room. Okay? And I will switch off the camera. Back. I don't know if others are back. It's a big question. Nobody even replies anything. I'm worried that. It was such a beautiful afternoon, you know, like it was about morning. I went out there, it's so shiny, the trees are so green, and like, you know, you hear the birds sing, and it's like, oh, can I just stay here a little bit more? Oh, well, anyways. Who can share the screen to see what are they doing? How is it going? Maybe some of the people that have even more difficulties with them, you know, like participating in class or something, maybe that could be one way. You don't need to show your face and look like, ah, look, I'm so cool, I do all these things, but like just share your screen. Maybe I give the spotlight a little bit to some people. Like Lawrence, do you want to share the screen? Where are you at? How are things going? Or maybe you like just like type some questions you have. Or maybe not. I feel like otherwise it's super unfair. The ones that are talkative are the ones that all the time say, oh yeah, look at what I'm working on. I never tried to let many people share the screen simultaneously, but maybe we can try that, right? That's like a way maybe to innovate a little bit. I will click on the security that everybody can share the screen and sorry, we're not leaving right now. Ah, Luvia. Okay, thank you for telling us. Now, maybe I do close the breakout rooms. It doesn't really make sense so much. What I will, because if people are not there, doesn't make sense. But what I was asking was like, who can share the thing? I mean, Frank, have you been working with arrays? You get a chance to.
Yeah, but
yeah, did you use that draw face thingy?
I'm trying to do that.
Yeah. Do you want to share the screen? Where are you at?
Okay. So currently I'm assigning random numbers to arrays.
Yes. So what Frank is doing makes a lot of sense. Now, it's a little dangerous if you want to remember where things were, right? Because if you are plotting things with an array, you have also the option to remember where they were. So what he's doing makes a lot of sense. It has this potential of getting the colors in different colors, but every time it goes through draw, every time it goes in there, and every time it does that, it will change the color. So that's one technique. If you want something to be like blinking like that, sure. Another approach would be to do that initialization of values in setup, and then in draw, you just pick them up. You just like read them. Right? So that's terrific. Thank you, Frank. Who else wants to share a little bit what they're working on? I don't know. Should like volunteer somebody? Already tried with somebody. The Lawrence didn't reply. Maybe Crystal. Are you there?
Yes.
Are you working with a draw face? Are you not watching some YouTube video?
I'm trying to. Okay, I'm working with it, but I don't think I don't know whether I'm doing this. I can share it. Like,
sure.
I'm doing a what?
Yes, definitely. So
Okay.
you have one array, it's called draw faces.
Right.
And what are you storing? The Y value, the value on the Y position?
Right. I think I'm changing the on the value on the y-axis, but I think I can also change the value on the x-axis as well.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, definitely. Okay, thank you. Okay, so I will take over. I will move into going quickly over the slides, and I will also try to get to at least think what can be done with those arrays. So one of the things that we saw in the slides is that there is more emphasis on this thing of a syntax. How do we declare an array? I'm talking about this. And how do we initialize it, right? So we also have like things like this, right? We put a number in there. Now, the bracket is used in a way that is telling us elements, right? And I assign those things, but then I can also pick up how long are things. So if I have them here, the draw face thingy, and I want to store values of X, right? And an int or a float, whatever. Float of, I will call it X, and I will call it float X, and I say you will contain, I always forget how to write the syntax. I'm sorry. Like it happens so often. It needs the word new. There's so many different languages that, and I always forget. But if you just copy paste, it just works, right? So you have an X here. That was not the right way of. I need to in X new float. Here I need to say how many. So I need 5 positions. Let's make more. Let's make 16. And then here I can use the for loop, and I can say I starting 0, because I will start with the first element, and I want the I while this thing has already elements, and I want the I to increase, and I will draw faces. Of course, this is not ideal for me because because if I have that here and I want to do something, I can call the X of I, and I can also call the Y of I. Maybe we have X and Y, right? So we have X and Y. So that's kind of the gig of it. Like I can definitely have. Oh, now it all clutter up there. Perhaps that was not the best way for me to use it, because now I have X and Y and all there. But I could do something like what Frank was doing, and in the setup for all these elements, I say the X of something. And I don't know, I mean, we can choose what to do, but I can call it random of the width, and I can also do something similar, but for the Y, and I random. Please ask if you have any questions. My my offer of making a little comment is still valid, right? Like just a little comment. The color thingy, I will maybe put. It's just a very strange thing, right? So I will put the color of, and here the syntax is strange. It's just strange, but whatever. I will put 255. I will put. No, wait. I will move the color mode, I think. Let me see. Yeah, I will move the color mode to certain thing I'm familiar with, like this, like this. And now I have the first one, any color, but then the other two, I will keep them in some fix them. So I have this thing. It's a little strange, but C, he doesn't know what C is. So if C is not a float, it's a color. So that now it should be able for us to say C here. C of I. We have now different little figurines. Not perfect, right? But at least we have many little faces there. Now, are there any questions about this thing I just did? I just tried to put together into practice having the same concept that we had before. Before I only had integer and I show a string. Now I'm putting a float, a color. I'm using a for loop here. I'm using a for loop there, but this is not totally necessary, right? You could say here, I want you to draw the first element, right? Any questions about this thing I'm doing? Oh my mind. Am I connected? Am I online? I see Frank's face. I see Linda's face. Hi, Linda. Do you have any questions? No? Okay. You had credit coding before, right? Yeah. So I'm sorry. I'm wasting your time, I think. Right? Because credit coding goes much deeper than this. The place I'm going to go now is to think over this thing I lost here. This thing that I'm working with. It's a little strange, right? It's like, yeah, sure, I'm doing this thing. It has I, but I comes from this number 16, and I put 16 here, and I put 16 here. That's one way of doing it. I will do it a little bit different for us to reflect on it. I put a Q there of quantity or something. I call int Q16. So I hope there's no questions about that, right? I just replace one with the other. It should be the same. It should be just the same. Now, if I have this, I could have here, instead of Q, I could ask for one of these elements, whatever it is, the length, right? So I could say, maybe I don't want Q, I want the length of Q. So X dot length will allow me to pick up the number 16. This is going to be incredibly useful because that way you don't need to think too much about the for loop. How many elements? What number do I put here? Well, you need to put in here whatever is the size of this. And how do you get the size? There is an order for that. So we call those methods that allow us to pick up things from this thing. So from this array. So for example, now what methods of functions is the same. I think that like at this stage for us is the same, right? So I have the first element, the second element. Like why should we pick it up from here? My cat's on the internet, right? So I have all these, and if I call the element 0, the element 1, I should know that this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is the length and I can use that using length. I explain length in more detail, but you can actually manipulate these elements. The arrays have functions for us to copy them, to sort them. If you will ask the user to write down the name space the surname, you have 3 elements there, but actually when they input, you could ask them to input all in different letters, and then you go and you find where's the space, and with the space you split it, and then when with the words you put them in a separate array with words sorted, and you take out the spaces, for example, right? So you could, for example, ask people write down something, and then you run an algorithm that is picking up where do the user press space, that defines a word, and then you have a little list on the side that has all the bad words you can imagine. You know, shit, fuck, this, that, and then you just censor, right? You just put stars whenever you find one of these cursing. So this kind of idea of arrays are a way for me to manipulate information. It's very powerful. I have there a couple of examples of, in the slides, you will see a couple of examples of expanding and being able to see the length. Just run them and you realize why it's important. The idea that we have a chance of manipulating the size of arrays is also going to help us. Another, I think this is the last thing I will mention. Another thing is that I've been talking about linear arrays, right? A series of elements one after the other. But what if we want to do a matrix? So if you think about an array, it's a matrix of one dimension. But if you want to do something like an Excel sheet with values on the X and the Y, doable. For our example here, where I was trying to build all these things, this one way of doing it, Frank, when he was coding, he was actually coding in a slightly different way. I noticed, but I didn't mention it by then. You could actually code it in a way that there is an array. The array is called faces. Faces has inside X and Y, C, and whatever else, right? Size, right? So you could have here another one for size, right? So it becomes a little bit cumbersome to have so many. So maybe one way for us would be to say, I have an array of faces and it contains all this stuff inside. I think that the easiest one for us would be to have all the same elements. So I will just say that you can think a float, maybe. It could be anything. It could be integer, right? But anyways, you can float faces, and then faces is a new. But now I start thinking, what do I want to do here? Do I want to do this? This will take my, this will take my X. So maybe you want to have X and Y. Right? So then it's a little bit like, okay, so how many do we need? We need 3. So if that's the case, we need X, Y, and S, for example. So now if you have this thing here, float faces, you can put the X, the Y, and the Z, S, right? X, Y, S. And it could be that you continue building, right? You have the H, the HSB, S, and the B. So then you have actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you could have one array of 6 elements here. This is not needed anymore. You have faces here, and faces here will be ta 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 ta. faces.
I didn't get that.
And my Siri just talked out of blue. And then he heard like some hey Siri. Faces of, and here it comes a little bit tricky, but you could have I, and you have the 0 position to do the X. This is a little bit, not totally necessary now, but then when we get to use images, a very, very useful skill. Okay? So height. And then whatever, right? But you continue building with this. And then, of course, here, you just pick up. It will take me 5 more minutes to do the coding for this, I think, because now I have color there. Maybe I just put them all black color. I'll just leave them black color so I don't need to deal with the color yet. And here I will say it's the faces of I, but which one? The first container. Then this one, what is it? The Y is the second container. So this thing I did is only drawing the X and the Y, but you can see the beauty of it, that instead of declaring, I only have one instruction. There's an array and it contains all the different elements. Okay, so I'll leave it there from my side, and I wonder if you guys think that this is going to be okay tomorrow. There is a recitation coming. You do have some time to work on it, but if anybody is totally lost, that we expect that to happen, we will have not only the regular office hours from the LAs, but we'll have a workshop where we will actually do the homework with you. So if anybody is feeling like, hey, what's going on? This is the moment definitely to speak out, because we are going to have the next week the need to connect processing with Arduino, and that's a requirement for your finals. So definitely you do want to get that. Get your kids ready. I know that like you're inside of a room, but like get the Arduino next to you. We will use arrays. We will not become experts on arrays. So you don't need to love them. You know, it's okay. You just like use them a little bit. That's all. I can stay online if anybody has questions. I will stop recording now, and I will also edit the recording, so it doesn't have like me testing or something like that. I hope that it helps for any consultation. The other thing I will do is, besides of sharing the recording, I will upload a gist with the code I just did live here. So here we have the software more or less where we left it, and I am trying to record a little bit more details. Here there's a very convenient method that I'm using, that is to have one array that has float elements, and it has them initially declare up there before the step, but then in here in the loop I have different variables, and let me see, it's going too slow, maybe only one direction, so I will rather make the random go both ways. Let's see how it goes. And with this, of course, it's totally static, right? Because I'm drawing the faces, I'm drawing the X position, I'm drawing all of the faces because I'm drawing along the whole content of the length of array. And in the loop, every time it goes and calls the I0, it will go and update it will go and pick up the X. So now if I think one of these elements is the speed and I add it up, then we somehow have the X moving, and all of them, they move a certain way. So this is definitely convenient. Maybe they're going too fast. Let me change it a little bit. And if we run this again and we think these little faces are going to be moving on the screen, there was also another thing that is like leaves this halo, right? And it happens because I'm not cleaning the background. So now I somehow have things moving around and moving sometimes to the left, sometimes to the right, different speed, all of them addressed with x and speed x. It's all inside the same array. It's just it's an array of 2 dimensions. And if I go deeply, this is not correct. Like there's something going on. I go x and okay. This one y was the one to update. So there we are. We have now x moving one way, y moving the other one. And of course, this is going to be allowing us to move along the canvas, either to the left or to the right, and it's coming with 16 elements. But of course, I mean, it's an array. So if I change the amount I have from 16 to 160, then you have a lot of little faces there. As the for loop goes over the length of array, then we don't need to think too much about that. And actually, we can think about this. It's like I'm dealing with one little face. It has these variables. And then we expand to have all those variables instead of one element on, I don't know, 160. Of course, if you put 16 million, then your computer will be like collapsing or something. 1,000 is about the limit of what I can do with mine. But that's it.